Good evening. Let's talk implants. Let's talk explants. Let's talk boobies. True story, because these have been 23 years of my life. That's almost half my life that I have had the twins, the girls, whatever you want to call them. I can joke about it. Some of it's been funny, but at the same time, like when you've had something for so long in your life, it's a major life change to decide it's time to go. It's time to take them out. And so there's a lot of emotions that stir. There are a lot of questions you're going to have. If you are even considering, if you are somebody out there that is considering having your breast implants removed, I want you to really do your research and don't just go with the flow and let your ego, ironically, we talk about the ego. You know, I posted on my Instagram earlier today, let go my ego, let go my ego. How strong is your ego? So we have to befriend our mind. We have to befriend our ego because it's meant to protect us. It's meant to serve us. We're not supposed to kill our ego. That is like the stupidest thing I've ever heard because it's there to serve you. It's just that you need to train it so that it serves you properly. It's meant to serve you, to foresee and warn you of impending danger. It's not there to freak out, although that tends to be the case, and create all the stories. We have to actually meditate daily to recognize the patterns, the beliefs, everything that's going on in this crazy monkey mind. And so that it can recognize where you need to do the research on things that are imperative to your health, your well-being, because it's a mind, body, spirit connection that intuits you to your soul and your knowing, your gnosis, your G-N-O-W-I-N-G, not the K-N-O-W-I-N-G, which is the ego, the mind. I think it thinks it knows it all. No, the gnosis is the body, because the body knows what's true. So even though you can think you know intellectually, until you integrate and actually experience, then you're still teeter-tottering on the wisdom, because you have to feel it in your body to know the truth of the matter, literally. So when we are contemplating major life changes, we got to get out of our heads and tap into the wisdom of our body, the gnosis, okay, kinesiology, do the truth tester, test, does this make my body strong or does it make it weak? Is there a weakness in my body already that is conflicted with what the belief in my mind is? Because we can hold on to beliefs all we want, but that's not going to make them true. Your body is always telling on you. Your body will show. When the body's out of alignment, it's showing there's a weakness and a misalignment in the mind. So when your mind is right, your body will be right, meaning you will be present and able to honor what arises in the body to recognize what is imbalanced, okay? Just like if the body's aligned, that means the mind's aligned. That means that you are in alignment with your truth, your Sat Nam. That's what can be felt within, no matter what you think, it's not going to make it true if it's not true. And so that's where it's all about molding and forming the ego at your soul's will, following your heart, rather than the mind mastering and enslaving you. So many of us are walking around with old, outdated belief systems and stories that we keep on repeat like a record player, and the more we tell them out loud, the more we think them in our minds, conscious or unconscious, they are attracting our experiences. Because if you think it, the body just says, okay, I don't agree, and that's why dis-ease erupts and manifests in the body. because it's saying, hey, I'm going to try to give you a signal down here until you wake the heck up. And sometimes it's not until it's a major life crisis that most people go, I don't understand what's going on in my body. Like as if your body is punishing you. It's not that it's punishing you. It's been trying to cue you and get your attention. Hey, screaming down here. And it's really an unresolved childhood trauma because the inner child is going, you know, a little attention here now and then would be really, really helpful because I feel neglected. And that's the example of when we judge or criticize ourselves, we're breaking our own hearts, because ultimately we want to be in our highest good, highest and best self. We want to be aligned with our truth. We don't want to be lying to ourselves and trying to fake the funk, because all that does is create more dis-ease. That means you're dissing your ease, you're dissing your comfort, you're dissing everything that you claim to desire, want, or wish, right? So what I want to go over tonight is some very important information. See, when the mind, you know, I'm going to admit right now, like I can be that person who wants to trust everyone. And I've been like that since I was a child, to see the best in people, to look past what is on the surface through to their potential. And I have to admit, this is a really sad thing, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing in the world. I can fall in love with a person's potential, but I have to be honoring where they're at. And it took me a long time to get to a place where I could discern what it is I wanted to see, which was through to their, what I believed was their potential or their highest good or their soul. You know, we say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So sometimes you get mesmerized and you go deep within, but you fail to recognize what is being presented, because we're always demonstrating where we're at through our actions, our behaviors, the stories we're telling. Like really intuitively, you can tap into and listen. You can hear between the words. You can see. You can take in the data and tap into the truth of the matter. But first you have to be tuned into your own truth, because when you deny your own truth, then you're going to deny everyone else's truth, and you're going to allow people to, what you'll call is pulling the wool over your eyes or lying to you, when the reality is that it's just you denying your truth and not honoring theirs. Because when you don't honor your own truth, others will appear to you as an untruth as well. Because people show up to you where you're at. Energy is like attracts like. So whatever it is you're telling yourself, others are going to show up in that same energy field. They're going to represent, they're going to present, you are going to project. And you're going to think, if you're in the old mindset, that it's being done to you, when all it is a reflection of you. Ooh, sit with that for a second. How deep it is that when you're lying to yourself, you will think others have lied to you, but all it is you're not listening to their truth, because they will always present their truth to you. It's whether you can see past your own lies, right? So if you can be honest and claim your own shadow, claim your own shit, claim the things that you tell yourself on a regular basis, like really, who are you? When you know yourself so well, nobody else can take advantage of you or pull the wool over your eyes. So you have to be willing to honor people where they're at. When they show up to you, they're showing you their truth. It's whether you're willing to see it and not wish it something else, or see into the potential, or oh, I'm so mesmerized in their soul. I saw their soul. They're such a good person. Aren't we all? And we all have our shadow and we all have our light. But which is shining so bright? Is it so blinding that you don't want to see past the bright light into the other half? because there are always two sides to the whole. This is the world of duality and polarity. So you have to see the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the true and the false, and put them together and see everyone and everything as a whole. Don't get caught up in the ego wanting to be right. Like, I'm right. That's a good person. I trusted you. You're the one who took advantage. No, 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 no. That's where you're turning it around and then becoming the victim. And that's your ego trying to be right and not recognize that to be happy, you have to heal. And that means you got to feel. And to be truly happy is to be whole and own all your parts. So you need your ego. Don't try to kill it. Don't try to die. Don't try to push it away, deny it. Your ego is just like a child. It needs to be trained. Like a child, it needs to be hugged and embraced and awarded and congratulated when it does right. And then you also have to mold it in the way that it will serve you best. Because all the ego is that aspect of you that wants to be able to predict and keep you out of harm's way, to keep you from pain and suffering. And when you know that, then you have to have compassion for your ego too, because it's just doing the best it can do with the information based on your past experiences. So when you are in awareness of your mind, your patterns, your behaviors, your belief systems, all the stories you concoct, and the record on repeat, like this is the purpose of meditation. Daily practice is so that you can have compassion from whence you came to where you want to be and where you are in the moment. So the more you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my mind's so big, I can't stop it. Over time, you'll stop reacting to it and start confronting it. You'll witness, you'll be slowing down more and more, because daily meditation allows you to be more in the moment and able to observe rather than get caught off guard and react to moment experiences. So when you're out in the world, if you're somebody who's been meditating for a while, it's been proven that meditators bounce back a lot quicker, that their fight, flight, freeze, or fawn isn't chronic, but you're able to come into this parasympathetic nervous system. You're able to relax rather than stress out all the time. Now we're all, we're all works in progress. We're all learning as we go. But in cases of like when you have to make major decisions, you want your ego to serve you. So your ego should be the one that's coming up with, okay, here's some questions I really need to have answers to. So when you are considering an explant, consider that you want to know your doctor's history. How many of these have you performed? What kinds of experiences have you had? Like, I came up, honestly, I feel really comfortable with my surgeon. He even knew my doctor that did this last implant. And there's the part of me that just wants to say, I'm good. I got a great doctor. I've got a great surgeon. I feel comfortable with them. I've got a good sense about this. Yeah, I do. But then I also didn't want to get too deep into my mind going into a little freak out. I mean, I'm already feeling the emotions of major life change because this changes my entire body. And it's going to be psychological and emotional and physical. There's going to be pain. So I have to nurture myself on all levels. And every night I'm going to bed, and this is just what I'm doing, and I encourage anyone out there that is either going through this or anything like this. I am blessing and loving my body. Like, I love my body. I love my breasts. When I lay in bed, I'm just, you know what? This is my being. And this is so important to me, to really be in this, to have this presence, to embrace this next chapter of my life. Like, this is the death of my past life. of 23 years of the hourglass figure, because even I bought into, I mean, I used to be a model and into all sorts of acting and all that too. And yeah, I cared about being proportionate. And because advertising and media and the way they make clothes for fashion, and I was a fashion designer too, and I drew all this stuff, and then I'm looking at my clothes and I'm like, I didn't quite fill out the top or the suit jacket. And I love vintage clothing. And my mother raised me to always have my clothes fitted and tailored so that they fit me. But for some reason, because of the influence, and I admit this, I wanted to be able to fill into the clothes, to fit properly. And now I realize, you know what? Now I'm in a place in my life where I'm good with me, and I'll make the clothes fit me. I will design whatever I need for my body for this next stage of my life. So to me, this is an even more exciting time. But I started doing more research because I want not only pictures of the implants after they come out, but I want to ensure that I also get my implants back, and I want to know that I'm getting what they call an N block, ENBLOC, which means it's a total capsulectomy. Meaning, so what your body does is it creates a capsule to protect the body around the actual implant. So it creates a sac around it because it's a foreign body. And the body's just doing that to protect your body. And when I spoke to the nurse today and I started asking all of these questions, she said she would check and get back to me. And I'll share that with you after I go through some of the questions I asked. Because I had a lot of questions. After my appendectomy, I had anesthesia. From my understanding, I had general anesthesia, but that doesn't tell you what kind of anesthesia. So how many of you out there ask the questions? What kind of anesthesia is going to be administered to me? Because after my appendectomy, my hair was coming out for a couple weeks. And I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, my hair. And my hair is already thin enough. And I just had about a foot of it cut off. Feels so refreshing and light. But that was one of my major concerns because I saw what happened. And it wasn't the first time I'd experienced that. So that was one question. The N block, having the total capsulectomy, knowing that it was so the capsule is like the scar tissue around that implant. The other thing was, where would the incisions be? Are they going to be bigger, or is it going to have to take up a different space? Am I going to have more scars? So that was that question. Am I able to get photos of the implants? Am I able to get the implants back? The pectoral muscle, what do they do to repair it? Do they use, do they reattach the pectoral muscle using dissolving sutures underneath, and so that they stay intact and that it can improve the function and appearance? And so I had to ask that question. And I ended up looking online, and I came up with this whole checklist of questions to ask. So let me just go over these, because anybody out there, this is important. Like, you should be asking questions. Don't just put your body in anyone's care. I mean, first off, doctors practice medicine and they do surgeries. So it's all practice, which is why you want to know if the surgeon who is performing a surgery upon you, what is his track record? What is his history? Find out if there's any reviews, if anybody's written up good and bad reviews. What were the experiences? How many of these surgeries have they performed? What is the aesthetic appeal afterward? Is it going to be lumpy? I mean, like, I don't want to assume that, oh, they do a great job if I don't have anything to go on. And so that's very Pollyanna, and that's like not using your ego for the good. That's an example where you want your ego to step in and go, okay, we need to ask some serious questions here, because this is a major surgery. This is a major life change. And it's going to affect how I feel about myself on the emotional, mental, and physical levels. So here are some of the questions, and it's a 2-page flyer document that I came up with. And there's nothing wrong with a second opinion. And if it turns out you're not happy with the surgeon, you can change your mind. Don't think it's a one and done and you just assume it's your only option. Because this is your body and you live in it 24/7. You better be comfortable with the doctor you're placing your care into. You want to be like confident that the person you are entrusting your physical body to is going to do what you need to feel safe and confident for them to do. So, although it says, for example, there's a lot of questions here. So evaluate your surgeon's responses. Do they seem acceptable? Do they respect your decision? Do they speak to you kindly, or are they condescending? Like, that's really important too, because if they're like judging you and shaming and blaming you or trying to make you feel bad, that is definitely not somebody you want operating on you. That's all their ego. And that's a good example of checking your ego. Like, be humble to listen, but also ask the questions that show that that person is knowledgeable and has your best interest at heart. So, are they respecting your decision and your rationale? Or do they try to talk you out of it, suggest a less invasive explant procedure, or make statements about hedging your bets by leaving a little extra in case you change your mind? So if you sense any pushback and it makes you feel uncomfortable, it may be time to consider a new surgeon. And everyone out there, I don't care, if you feel like this is your only opportunity, you can always go back. You can always find another surgeon. You should always have the last choice. And if you don't think so, then you're definitely not the one. You should not be going to the surgeon. Like, if you feel like you're under duress, being bullied or pushed, you may need to take a step back. And it's only for your best own and highest good. It's for your health. Because if you don't feel confident, then who knows what's going to happen on the other end. I mean, you really need to take your own health in your hands and don't entrust it to just anyone. There's plenty of doctors out there, and there are a lot of professionals who are really good at what they do, and you just need to seek them out. So it says, although plastic surgeons are specially trained to create aesthetically pleasing results, their experience with and aptitude for the explant procedure, the aesthetic flat closure, or both can vary dramatically. So if your surgeon isn't confident in their ability to do what you're requesting, consider a second opinion. And then be specific and have a checklist of questions. And these are some of the best questions I saw, because they address some of the questions I didn't even realize I should have been asking when I first started talking to them. And I've been on this for over almost since September. I think it was September, October when I first went to my surgeon, because I had a car accident last year and I have a ripple feeling, or I'm not sure if the MRI shows that it is a leak, or it's a rupture or a ripple, because even the plastic surgeon, when he first saw it, he said, it looks like it could be a ripple, but we're not trying to go in there and create more problems to disrupt it. So that would be why you would take the capsule out either way, because then at least the capsule that's around the implant hopefully would hold in anything that might have leaked. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't get past that, but that's just my logic and thinking. So leave no room for miscommunication in your discussion with the surgeon. Ask for specific details. Don't be afraid. This is your right. These are the basic medical rights. Your right to choose, your right to ask questions, and to feel confident. Because this is your body and your choice. Ask if they've ever done an en bloc, E-N-B-L-O-C. It's 2 words. Or it's also known as a total capsulectomy. And if you're interested in an aesthetic flat closure before you have this surgery? Like, have they ever done this before? So when referring to this, what is called this aesthetic flat closure, in this particular flyer and brochure, it talks about a one and done aesthetic flat closure. And my impression, because this was speaking more to people, the women who have had mastectomy patients, these are mastectomy patients who ask for a flat result. Otherwise, you may end up with something that just is very traumatizing, and you don't want that. So that is just something for women who don't want excessive skin or hasty closures that leave lumps, folds. Yeah, you don't want to end up where you're not feeling like your body feels right to you. So then the next question is to ask, will one surgery be sufficient, or should you expect to need revision or more surgeries in the future? So initially when I spoke to the surgeon, he actually didn't recommend putting in new implants when we were talking about it, because I was kind of half and half. Do I want to get a replacement? Was I going to get new implants, or was I going to get them out completely? And he suggested taking them out and not putting in new implants until I had healed, which is interesting and actually made me really consider taking them out, because it was last year when I realized, wow, thinking about it, I was like, maybe it's time. I thought I'd wait till I was older, but then now I'm thinking, why not now? I'm a completely different person. And they're just not, I mean, yeah, they're a part of me now because I've had them for so long, but they don't represent the person I am anymore. And when I say that, I mean it from the perspective of, I'm going to be okay going back down to an A or B, wherever I'm going to be. And the reason I say that, my body's quick in healing. I trust my body to firm up and to be perfectly fine without the implants. And I say that because I remember when I had them done, my body healed quickly too. But this is a much more invasive surgery, because when you put something in, you're stretching it out. That's a little easier, in my opinion, than now we've had this trauma and these implants inserted for 23 years. And what that means is now the breast tissue, the pectoral muscle, all has to readhere to where the gap was between them, the implants, and my rib cage and my chest cavity. So that's another thing to consider, is that it even states that sometimes what happens is the chest could be concave, it could be caved in underneath, it could be dented in just slightly. So we won't know until he takes them out. I can't say yes or no because I'm not sure. But the next question is regarding how do they manage the pectoral muscles? And what they're referring to in that is whether or not, like I said earlier, do they adhere them? Do they stitch them up? Do they surgically reattach the pectoral muscle using dissolvable sutures so that they can improve the function and appearance, but also help it heal in place? Now, I didn't really quite get the answer to that question, but there's more to this. Then, do they routinely send excise materials for pathology? If not, you can request this. Now, that's another question. I'll address all the answers that I got to these questions after I go through the questions. Then the question was, will the implants be returned to me? I mean, I didn't think about it from the last one. I probably would have kept the last ones if I thought about it. I don't want them reusing my implants. You just don't know. In this day and age, who knows what they do with things afterward. It's kind of like when you get your car repaired. It's actually best, and if you don't already do this, to always see and get the parts that they replace back, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't replace, or you don't know what they do with them. So that way you can at least see. Anyway, not only that, but I did pay for them. Just saying. So I should get my my personal belongings back to me. I don't know, maybe I'm funny like that, but I really want to use this as a teaching opportunity as well, and that's why I'm sharing my journey. Hopefully I'll be able to do more videos as well. I just don't know how I'm going to feel and all that. So the next question, do they routinely document the encapsulated implants, unencapsulated implants, and chest cavity with photos? You can request that as well, because I want to see photos. I want to see what it looks like with the scar tissue. I want to make sure that they actually remove them intact, which is why I asked for the end block, because I don't want them cutting it up in chunks and taking pieces of the implant out. That's just ridiculous. But sometimes doctors cut corners. And that's, again, you have to feel safe and secure with whoever is going to perform such a major surgery on your body. The next question, how will they address any special challenges in your case? For example, if you're obese, if you have large implants, if you have it's called capsular contracture or allografts. I don't know what those are specifically, but it's good to know what they are. How will they avoid dog ears? And so I was like, dog ears? Oh my gosh, that sounds like, like flappy dog ears. So what does that mean? Maybe it means overlap. How far will the incisions extend on the lateral chest in order to achieve a flat contour? So again, I mean, my body is going to have to firm up over time because of the stretching from having implants. But if anything, I have under the breast. I didn't do through the armpit or through the nipple. And my thing is, don't touch my nipples, I'm just saying. Going under is sufficient. Then the next question, what type of closure incision scar pattern will your surgeon use and why? Then, how will they account for gravity's effect on the tissues to ensure a smooth closure? And then, should you expect concavity, the indentation of the the rib cage? What is their approach to addressing this? So it says to document all of your expectations. It says, while the responsibility for the aesthetic outcome ultimately lies with the surgeon, it's your body. Remember that. Protect yourself by ensuring that your expectations are documented in your medical report. And it says they recommend on this brochure to take the following steps. It says, bring a supportive person to your surgical consults, a partner or family member, a friend, whoever you trust. Provide your surgeon with pictures that represent your desired aesthetic outcome and ask they be included in your record. Have your surgeon confirm your wishes in writing, and then write a summary of your discussion in consult and email it to your surgeon. This is all CYA, by the way. Then it says, ask for a response confirming the understanding, and this will alert you both to any misalignment in expectations. And then it says, ask if your surgeon consent form can specify total capsulectomy and aesthetic flash closure if desired, and then request a signed copy. And then it says, trust your intuition. It's your body. Trust your body, because your body's going to tell you, ooh, this doesn't feel right. Ooh, this is feeling not confident. Like, your body is going to override the mind. Like, if you don't feel confident in your body, you get a sinking stomach feeling, your heart, like really tune into that, because your body's going to be the ultimate decider. And if you don't listen to it, how many times have you not listened to your gut and then been like, oh, I felt that? Like, it is the truth indicator. It says, if at any point you suspect that your surgeon may not produce your desired result, find a new surgeon. I mean, even if it means last minute, I change my mind, I can still find another doctor. It's not the end of the world, people. It just means a delay, but these aren't the types of things that you want to rush through anyway. These are not the kinds of decisions you want to place your hands in someone who's got a knife and is going to cut you up and open if you don't feel confident. So it says it's worth it to ensure that your wishes are respected and that you get a surgical outcome that meets your expectations. It's a given, but I'm reinforcing it here because I think it's so important. What happens in the end if it doesn't turn out the way you expected is you get upset with yourself, because we are our own worst inner critics. We'll get mad, we'll blame the surgeon, but ultimately it was our lack of asking the right questions and then trusting our own inner guidance system, right? Don't do that to yourself. Trust yourself first, and then you'll know whether or not to trust the doctor, so that when that inner truth system, that inner guidance says, woo, red flag, you go, you know what? I think I need a second opinion. Because if you don't trust you, you won't be able to trust that individual. That's powerful and that's important. This is your life. Now, on the day of the surgery, it recommends to review the details. It says, since the time between your initial consult and surgery date can be weeks or months, it is prudent to check the checklist of questions in this brochure and review the details of your case with your surgeon again on the day of the surgery. And that's why I will be bringing this with me. And yes, I've got whole papers of notes because that's how I roll. It also says, for more information, you can go to these different websites. I'll give you a couple of them. HealingBreastImplantIllness.com is one. centerforresearch.org/breast-implants. I'll put this in the comments and in the information. breastimplantsafetyalliance.org and notputtingonashirt.org/explant. Now, going flat after implant reconstruction, your body, your decision. So there's many reasons. This is what it was referring to earlier, that you may choose to go flat, as it's called, when you get your explant after initial implant reconstruction. It says women seek explant with aesthetic flat closure, not just because of dissatisfaction with the implant reconstruction's appearance, but also as a result of serious complications. These include implant rupture, capsular contracture, infection, chronic pain, or mechanical dysfunction and weakness, and even autoimmune diseases, or it has this acronym BIA-ALCL, which is a cancer linked to implants. It says, mindful that past and ongoing cancer therapies could be a factor, many women explant in hopes of resolving a decline in overall health and quality of life that began after receiving the breast implants initially. Minimizing every potential barrier to health is their top priority. So that's why a lot of women do it's called aesthetic flat, or the one and done, because they're more concerned with their health. So mindful of this, the two paths forward aesthetically after an explant are autologous breast reconstruction. It's DIEP-TRAM, are just a couple of the acronyms, or aesthetic flat closure, which is removal of excess skin and contouring to reconstruct a smooth chest wall contour. Now, both options are valid with benefits and drawbacks. Remember that this is your body, your life, and it's your choice. It's your decision in the end. Now, I'm not looking to go flat. That's not my goal. I'm looking to just maintain my breast tissue and close the encapsulated area without the capsules in there, by the way, so that it's just my breast tissue and my pectoral muscles that have to heal and re-adhere to my body, to the chest cavity and to the rib cage. Now, going back to the questions being answered, he says that, let's see. So an end block, here's the information for what an end block is written as. What is a proper explant? It says a capsulectomy, end block or total. An explant procedure that aims to resolve or present systemic symptoms will necessarily involve much more than simple removal of the implant itself. It will also include removal of the scar capsule surrounding the implant and any allograft material as well. It says the scar capsule is living tissue produced by the body as a protective response, to contain foreign materials that it cannot expel. So that's what I was explaining. The capsule is around the implant. Your body created that. Since it has been in direct contact with the implant and may therefore harbor potentially harmful contaminants, for example, toxins, bacteria, mold, etc., it must be removed entirely, ideally in a manner which preserves the integrity of the capsule and prevents these contaminants from being released, i.e. an en bloc. So going back to what that description is, instead of just cutting open the capsule, I don't want that. I want them to remove, separate the tissue and the pectoral muscle from the capsule and take it out as a whole piece. In a lot of the pictures that I have seen, it's very graphic, and it's, to me, kind of like, wow, when I started looking, because I just didn't need to see it at first, okay? I like to get closer to things before I start filling my mind with the details, if that makes sense to anybody out there. Getting information is one thing, but like when you start looking at people's stuff, it can make you very, ooh. The first time I saw a woman's pictures of the before with the capsule and then the implants right next to it, essentially the capsule they're not always going to be able to remove and separate as clean as we would like. So it really looked like two pieces of meat out on the table. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Like, my initial reaction was, I don't want to be filleted. And so I went through this over the past, and that's what I was revealing in the last video that I made about this, that I was literally like, whoa, okay, whew, I have to sit with this. This is major surgery. This is major, okay? And I've also sat with the fact that if something were to happen, I'm okay with that too. I mean, like, if I didn't make it, because you know what? I know that the soul travels on, and whatever will be, will be. But I feel confident in this surgery anyway. So with that said, it says there's no evidence that capsules dissolve. In fact, if left behind, they can cause further complications. Sometimes a scar capsule is too thin or fragile to be removed en bloc. In this case, meticulous total capsulectomy and debridement of the surgical site is critical to ensuring none of it is left behind. So hopefully there's just enough, and not too little and not too thin, when they go to take it out. That's my prayer. The surgeon you use for your explant should be willing to commit to removing the entire capsule, not parts, and not leaving anything behind. This is particularly critical if you are concerned with systemic symptoms. Now, the pathology, the documentation, and return. This is more information. Explant capsules and chest cavity swabs should be submitted for pathological evaluation in order to obtain accurate diagnostic information and ensure appropriate follow-up care. Unless specified, pathology testing will only look for atypical cells. Your surgeon will have to specifically request testing for bacteria, fungi, inflammatory cells, foreign materials, mold, and CD30, which is for that BIA-ALCL type of cancer that is related to implants. This is particularly critical if you're concerned with systemic symptoms. You must also request an official comprehensive statement from the pathologist, including all relevant findings and photos and the return of your implants. Now, going back to all of this, I made these requests. I asked these questions. And when I spoke to the nurse, who did not have the answers, and I knew some of the questions I really would have liked to have spoken directly with the surgeon, because I don't like the middleman way of doing things, but I was hoping she was going to have him call me back, and he may have tried, but I wasn't available during a certain block of time. So she did call me back this afternoon and answered my questions as best she could, but ultimately there are two things that I'm going to have to do. Number one, speaking of pathology, she said that the implants get sent, they can take the pictures, that's a good start, so they're going to take the pictures for me. Second, I'm going to have to contact pathology directly, because they said that they send the implants off to pathology, which I didn't think that you needed to send the implants, but maybe the capsule, that makes sense to me, because if the implants are intact, then there's no reason to send them anywhere. And ideally, they should be intact. So I'm going to have to call pathology in order to find out if they will return them to me. Again, I paid for them, just saying. They're my personal property. Hey, I've been carrying them around for 23 years. Or this set was 14. Just saying. Anyway, she said that that was no problem with the photos being given or taken for me. And when I asked about the anesthesia, she said they use general anesthesia. I said, well, that doesn't tell me what kind of anesthesia. And I expressed my concern after my appendectomy and how I lost a lot of hair. So that was a major concern. So she suggested you're going to have to speak with the anesthesiologist when you go in for surgery. So I won't know until the time of the surgery. Second, pectoral muscle repair. She didn't specifically have the answer to that question, whether they would be using the sutures to readhere or do any of that. She just assumedly answered it as, well, yeah, of course, they're going to make sure. I'm like, that's not the answer I need. Sometimes when you have a person in between, they're going to try to make you feel at ease, but that's not always the answer you want. So, because it might not be the truth. She did say that the doctor ideally will be doing the same incision unless there's some reason there's a complication and needs to be larger or what have you. I also, like I said, asked about the pathology. Like I said, she said I would have to contact them directly. She also said she would relay that I want the capsule removed intact, because initially when I asked about the end block and the total capsulectomy, she said, she made it sound like initially that the doctor was just going to remove the implant, and that unless the capsule needed to be removed, he would leave it inside. And I said, actually, I want the whole thing taken out. And so she said she would relay that to the surgeon, which made me happy. And I'm glad I read this, because I wouldn't have thought about the capsule being an issue, except for the fact that, just as I read to you, the capsule is containing the implant. So if the capsule's intact, why would you want it punctured and the implant taken out of it when the capsule was only created as a result of the implant being implanted, right? So just keep that in mind. If you are considering an explant, or you know anyone who needs this information, please share this video with anybody you know who has breast implants and is considering having them removed, because this is really important information. And I wouldn't take it lightly, as I definitely am not. So for me, on Sunday, see, a week from today is my surgery. I will not know the exact time of my surgery until Sunday. And currently, that's for my lab work. I have to go in for my COVID test and pregnancy test, supposedly. Hey, listen. Nothing more insulting to a woman who's been celibate for over 4 years to be told, I don't believe you, you need to take a test. Yeah, right. Anyway, So she checked on my allergies. I have latex allergies and some other stuff. And I have a do not resuscitate. I don't have a do not resuscitate on my file. I said, and I don't want a do not resuscitate on my file. I want to be brought back to life. Like, that's stupid. She asked me if I'd ever had INH therapy, which I did, which was the INH when yeah, that goes back to my military time. And that was very, I think that taxed my immune system heavily. So the scheduling of the time I'll find out on Sunday. And pretty much I just need to follow up with pathology. I'll have to ask these questions again to the surgeon to confirm and to know. And I'll probably will, as a result of the recommendation, I will write it up with a list of the things that I just explained here and my expectations. And if I don't feel comfortable, worst case scenario, I find another surgeon, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, the world, there's so many doctors out there. And in my case, I know that I'm going to be okay no matter what ends up happening, because my life has been divinely guided. So if I'm not meant to have it Tuesday, I won't. But if I am meant to have it Tuesday, it's going to go perfectly swell, perfectly well, and I am going to heal quickly and perfectly intact. Because I will have asked all the questions, and I will have felt my intuition, my guidance system guiding me. And I encourage each and every person out there, no matter what procedures you're ever considering with a doctor, always find out your options. Always ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking a question. There is no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know the answer, you need to ask the question so that you put your mind at ease, so your mind can work for you. Because otherwise, what happens if you don't ask the question? Your ego concocts a story, the mind, the monkey mind, gets crazy and running away. And then if you've got all this turmoil and all these crazy stories going on in your head, then your body's going to be like, whoa, whoa, out of whack, right? Because that's how that works. If you're not right in the mind, it's going to be reflected in the body. And if you're not right in the body, it's just telling on the mind. It's saying something's out of whack. Listen to that. Trust it. There is no such thing as a dumb question. And if anybody ever tries to shame or blame you, just remind them you don't need their permission. And it's none of their freaking business. As far as doctors go, they're there. You choose the doctor. The doctor doesn't choose you. And if you feel like the doctor is pulling a power trip with you and trying to make you feel less than, then it is time to get another doctor. And it's only been a couple times that I've ever dealt with egotistical doctors. Like when I had the reaction to gluten, and my doctor, I had just spent the entire weekend researching, wanting to know why my body freaked out. Because that's how your body signals you to get your attention, to do the research, to lean in, to ask the questions. Otherwise, it will keep on banging at you. It will keep on getting more inflamed and irritated and frustrated, because that's how that works. Your body creates reactions for you to respond to so that you'll research. You'll get curious. Without your curiosity, you can end up creating an even worse situation. Because when you neglect yourself, it's what results in the dis-ease. You dissing your ease. That's what dis-ease is. You dissing yourself turns into dis-ease. Otherwise, if you were to just tune into that, ooh, something feels off, it wouldn't spiral and turn into a bigger problem in the end. See, it's called nipping it in the bud when it arises. You know, when you get upset at somebody and then you let it fester, and the longer it festers, it becomes like a seeping wound, and then you blow up at them, and they are like, well, wait a minute here. You're complaining or you're upset about something that happened how long ago? If you don't confront things in the moment when they arise, it's only you who suffers. And that's all things in life. the more you're willing to confront what is uncomfortable, whether in yourself or in another, if you don't ask the questions, you don't do the work, as we say, you're the only one who suffers. And you only have this life to enjoy, and you're not meant to suffer. It's choosing that makes it such. You always have the choice to shift it. You know, a holy shift. When you choose you, when you choose your joy, that's when the holy shift happens. You shake out all the shit and it becomes a holy shift. So no matter what's going on in your life, just remember that you have to use your mind, because that's how you make choices. You have to take in the information through your 5 senses, through your eyes, through your nose, through your mouth, through your ears, through your spidey sense. All of that is important. That's how you take in data. And then based on your past experiences and your ability to discern and to weigh out all those little factors of everything that you're sitting with, that's how you use your mind. And you also have to use the mind to process the negative, the positive, and bring it to neutral and weigh out the options. Okay, so we say in Kundalini Yoga, it should take you 9 seconds to come to a conclusion. 3 seconds in the negative mind, 3 seconds in the positive mind, and 3 seconds in the neutral mind. If it takes longer than 9 seconds, here's a clue. You're too much in the negative, too much in the positive, definitely not in the neutral, which means you're not going to make a proper decision. It means you're too caught up in something else. You're caught up in the duality. And that in order to reach that proper 9-second response, decision making, you need to find out why you're having an emotional response to it and what it's triggering. Because whatever it's triggering is your work to do and to confront. Quite often when we're unable to make a choice, it's because we're stuck in the past. We're stuck in a story. And because we're stuck in that story, we're anticipating the worst. As a result of the story, we're expecting and anticipating the next story to keep on getting worse and to repeat that old story. So that's what we anticipate we create, and that the more we're stuck in the past, we're recreating and reliving it all the time. And so, of course, the mind will say, see, I told you that happened, it would happen again. And that's the ego wanting to be right instead of stepping back, re-observing, and you know, when you anticipate the worst case scenario because of the past cases of those same scenarios, you are creating it. Every time you tell the old story, whether in your mind or out your mouth, you're drawing more of that to you. So in order to break that pattern, you have to shift it. You have to move the body. You have to sit down and write about it. You have to look at it from an observer, witness perspective and go, why do I think that's going to keep happening? Just because it has in the past, it happened more than once. It was different people, so it's not exactly the same exact scenario. It's me that's the common denominator, and it's my thoughts around it that keep it going. So you really just need to ask yourself, what is the best thing that could happen, and focus more on something new. Just like we say, are you going to defend your limitations? Are you going to focus on the problem? Are you going to try something different and focus on solutions? Like, get excited about doing something new. Like, what is the best positive outcome that could come out of it? There's so many different ways you can work with it, but the key is in recognizing with awareness when your mind goes into that monkey spin, that woo, 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 here we go, you know, gets out of control. And you need that ego. You just need to whip it into shape. Whip it real good. Because that's supposed to work for us. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're not trying to kill the ego. We're trying to befriend it, master it, so we can master our domain, master our lives. And that's where breathing into our bodies, Being present with the moment, because your presence is the gift of the now. That's why it's a present. So, so much love. I hope this video resonated with someone out there. Please let me know in the comments if you are considering an explant, if you know anybody who's ever had one. Share with me your experiences, your stories. Reach out to me. Follow me on my other social platforms, Clapper, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. Make sure you click the notifications and the bell so that you find out when I'm going live and I post these videos. And if you like the video, please like, comment, help me with the algorithm. I appreciate you for just showing up. And just remember, you are worthy. You don't have to explain yourself. When you ask questions, they're for your best interest. You don't have to live up to anybody else. So tonight, go to bed, hug yourself, love yourself, scan your body and tell every cell, every part of you, I love you. Like, try to make that a nightly routine. You will sleep so much better. You will wake up so much more refreshed and probably with a spring in your step, because I know I did this morning. So go to bed and have sweet dreams. I love you. I look forward to seeing you next time, and I'll be sharing this journey as I continue. Night, night.